Imagine standing in a packed arena surrounded by haughty holy knights looking down on you, and all you can think about is how this is where things really get fun. Our guy Jin is just chilling, waiting for the perfect moment to break these arrogant snobs. When the knight tries to flex his holy authority and negotiate a battle, Jin hits him with the ultimate disrespect, a stone-cold refusal right to his face. Look at the red-haired guy's jaw dropping. He genuinely looks like his brain just short-circuited. Cut to the outside of the mercenary dormitory bathed in moonlight, looking all peaceful and quiet, which is honestly hilarious considering the absolute chaos brewing inside. Commentary. Gotta love how manhwa artists always throw in a tranquil scenery shot right before someone gets their teeth kicked in. Inside, the gorgeous blonde mercenary is left completely speechless, staring in utter shock because nobody in their right mind turns down a holy knight like that. Even her buddy with the headband is bugging out, looking like he just witnessed someone trying to slap a dragon with a pool noodle. The entire room full of rough mercenaries erupts into total confusion, spitting out their drinks and scratching their heads in disbelief. Commentary. Look at these derpy background expressions, man. The art style instantly switching to cartoonish gag mode is peak comedy. The red-haired apprentice knight completely loses his cool, turning into a fiery chibi menace as he screams at Jin to explain why he's ducking the fight, while Jin just blows a calm puff of air like it's a casual Tuesday. Redhead is practically steaming at the ears now, throwing a silent temper tantrum, while his silver-haired senior stands there analyzing the situation with ice-cold patience. The silver-haired knight towers over the balcony railing, staring down at Jin with that classic "I'm superior to you in every way" noble posture. Jin just raises his bandaged hand with a smug, nonchalant smirk, casually telling them he isn't scared or intimidated at all. Jin's chill energy is unmatched. Bro is facing two high-tier warriors and acting like he's declining a side quest from a generic NPC. Losing his patience slightly, the silver-haired knight narrows his blue eyes and demands to know the actual reason Jin is turning down the duel. Standing tall right in the middle of the arena, Jin lays it out straight. He's a mercenary who chases after money and power, so why on earth would he risk his neck fighting a holy knight apprentice for free? With a dangerous glint in his eye and a razor-sharp smirk, Jin proposes a little wager to spice things up. The silver-haired knight smirks right back with pure arrogance, questioning what a scrub mercenary could possibly offer that would be worth a holy knight's time. Commentary? Classic mistake number one in fantasy stories. Never assume the guy in raggy clothes is broke, because anime logic dictates he's holding a cheat code bank account. Thud. Right on cue, Jin reaches down into his bag and pulls out a massive, bulging sack overflowing with pure gold coins that lights up the whole room. The crowd instantly goes wild, bursting into roaring laughter at the sheer audacity of this crazy bastard trying to gamble with a holy knight who supposedly lives by honor. Holding that heavy bag of gold like it's nothing, Jin stands tall in the ring while the spectators shout in total disbelief over how lightly he treats sacred knightly tradition. Red Hair is practically grinding his teeth to dust, clutching his fists so tight his knuckles are turning white as his pride gets shredded to pieces. Commentary. Bro is 1 second away from popping a blood vessel, and honestly, seeing hot-headed characters get trolled this hard is so satisfying. Just as Red Hair is about to lose his mind and leap over the railing, the silver-haired knight places a firm hand on his shoulder and steps in, declaring that they don't give a damn about Jin's money. The silver-haired knight leans over with a cold, sinister look in his eyes, preparing to name his own price. Instead of gold, he proposes a condition. Whatever brutal injuries or damages occur during the fight, both parties sign off on zero liability, no holds barred. Zooming in on his chilling blue gaze, he makes it crystal clear that what they really want is the freedom to crush Jin without getting penalized. Commentary. Talk about a dramatic escalation. The artist did a fantastic job with the lighting on his eye here. Pure bad guy energy. But Jin doesn't even sweat it. He throws up a confident thumbs up, chuckling to himself that this agreement just gives him full permission to beat the Holy Knight black and blue, telling him he'll collect his reward after he wins. Shh! The atmosphere violently shifts as intense tension ripples through the air, signaling that the talking is over and the real brawl is about to begin. Down on the arena floor, the red-haired knight tightens the cloth wraps around his hands, his muscles flexing as he prepares to unleash absolute carnage. Jin steps out into the open ring from behind, rolling his shoulders and getting into position without an ounce of hesitation. Commentary. Notice how Jin isn't even wearing proper armor. just casual clothes and cloth wraps. If that isn't MC energy, I don't know what is. Redhair glares through his bangs, his eyes locked onto Jin like a predator ready to pounce and tear his target apart. Jin glares right back with a calm, deadpan look, completely unbothered by the heavy, murderous intent filling the room. The crowd goes wild from the upper tiers, screaming at the top of their lungs for Head Crusher to demolish Jin while tossing down their entire fortunes and bets. Jin's mercenary crew calls out from the side, telling him to give a signal if he's in over his head, but Jin just casually glances back and tells them not to sweat it. Commentary. His team looks so stressed while Jin is treating this like a light warm-up stretch. The contrast is gold. Turning his head with a razor-sharp profile and a cocky grin, Jin bluntly declares that victory is already guaranteed. Preparing to launch his strike, Redhair looks up to his senior for final permission on how hard to hit, and the silver-haired knight gives the cold green light to go all out. Staring from above, the silver-haired senior mentally notes that despite Jin's relaxed stance, he's definitely not going to be an easy opponent. Foosh! Redhair acknowledges the order as vibrant golden mana suddenly erupts around his entire body like a raging aura flame. Boom! The visual effects here are magnificent. You can literally feel the heat radiation from those yellow aura swirls. The crowd gasps in awe as they witness genuine mana arts in action, cheering wildly for the Holy Knight Apprentice to wipe the floor with the mercenary. Boom! With a thunderous stomp that cracks the stone floor, Redhair blurs forward at terrifying speed, leaving a trail of glowing mana behind him. Jin's eyes widen slightly as he tracks the incoming assault, recognizing that this guy's movement speed is leagues above the small-time thugs he usually fights. Clash! Redhair throws a devastating mana-boosted punch right at Jin's skull, forcing Jin to weave back by a hair's breadth as the shockwave rattles the air. Grazed by the intense air pressure, a bead of blood trickles down Jin's cheek as he realizes that taking a direct hit from this refined force could literally be fatal. Commentary. Finally, some actual danger. It's so refreshing when an overpowered protagonist actually has to respect the opponent's raw power instead of just tanking it like a wall. Redhair immediately follows up with a lightning-fast elbow strike, but Jin swiftly leans under the arc, his mind thoroughly fascinated by the mechanics of mana arts. Ducking smoothly beneath the lethal strike, Jin keeps his eyes locked on his opponent's movements, reading his body language in real time. Bam! Redhair brings down a heavy hammer fist infused with radiant yellow energy, smashing down hard while Jin barely gets his bandage guard up in time. Kaboom! The explosive impact detonates with a cloud of dust, throwing up debris and blasting Jin backward across the arena floor as he skids to a halt. Jin wipes his mouth with his bandaged forearm, looking through the settling smoke while the knight smugly addresses him by name. Clenching his glowing, aura-wrapped fist, Redhair sneers, calling Jin a wild beast from the demonic realm and vows to make him regret ever looking down on a holy knight. Commentary, typical villain monologue. Bro is talking mad trash after landing one decent push. Someone hand this guy a copy of MC Script Standard Rules because he's setting himself up for a massive counterattack. Up in the stands, the mercenary who bet his savings on Jin starts panicking hard, sweating bullets as he sees Jin getting pushed back and realizes his wallet is about to be nuked. Blonde mercenary clenches her chest nervously, her brows furrowed in deep worry as she whispers Jin's name. High above on the balcony, the silver-haired knight keeps his arms crossed, watching the battle unfold with a stoic, unreadable expression. Rat-tat-tat, Redhair unleashes a relentless barrage of golden-lit strikes, but Jin maneuvers through the storm, blocking and parrying every hit with calculated precision. Holding his chin in thought, the silver-haired knight narrows his eyes as a sudden chill creeps up his spine, sensing that something is very, very wrong with the way Jin is handling this fight. Commentary. And there it is. That uneasy feeling in the senior's gut means Jin is just analyzing his attack patterns. Next chapter is going to be a total slaughterhouse. Ever wonder what happens when a guy with zero fancy magic faces off against a high and mighty holy knight? Up on the balcony, the silver-haired senior knight narrows his eyes, realizing Jin isn't struggling at all. He's just holding back on purpose. Commentary. The Silver Knight's brain is finally turning on. You can practically hear the gears grinding in his head as he realizes Jin was playing with him the whole time. Zooming in on that sharp blue eye, the senior knight starts panicking internally, wondering why Jin switched from one-shotting mercenaries to playing defense. Is this casual mercenary hiding a game-changing secret weapon? Down in the arena, Redhead lets out a battle cry, lunging forward with every ounce of golden aura he can muster into a lethal punch. Whoosh! Boom! A massive fist of radiant golden mana explodes toward Jin's head like a meteor, threatening to obliterate the entire arena floor. Commentary: look at that visual effect. The artist went all out with the golden glow. It's like watching a DBZ power-up in a high fantasy realm. Clash! Instead of splattering across the pavement, Jin effortlessly swaths his wrapped arms across the trajectory, deflecting the holy mana punch with his bare hands. Kaboom! The diverted strike erupts into the wooden balcony, shattering the structural beams into flying splinters as spectators shriek in total shock. Up in the crowd, the headband mercenary pops a vein, screaming in complete disbelief that anyone could parry a Holy Knight's signature mana art barehanded. The crowd's jaws are practically hitting the floor. Commentary: you've got to love how manhwa's side characters exist solely to express the exact level of shock the audience feels. Skid marks trail behind Jin as he tilts his head down, blood dripping from his lip, but his posture screams that he hasn't even broken a sweat. Slowly lifting his head with a sinister smirk and a glowing red eye, Jin casually announces that he's officially finished taking the knight's measurement. Cracking his wrapped knuckles with a terrifying grin, Jin decides it's time to test just how durable this knight really is. Whoosh! In a fraction of a second, Jin completely disappears from sight, reappearing right inside Redhead's guard to bury a brutal bare-knuckle punch deep into his gut. Commentary: boom! That quick-step body shot was nasty. Bro went from taking notes to taking ribs in less than a second. Gah! Redhead's eyes bug out of his head as all the air is violently forced out of his lungs in a single agonized gasp. Staring down from the upper deck, the silver-haired knight freezes in horror, realizing that a plain, unenhanced physical punch just folded his junior in half. Cough! As dust settles, the senior knight's jaw drops. Jin wasn't waiting for a tactical opening during the whole fight. He was literally just dragging out the duel to savor every moment. Jin looks down at his gasping opponent with an amused, "Oh-ho." Commentary: imagine training your whole life in sacred knight techniques only to realize the raggy mercenary you challenged was just using you as a warm-up exercise. Jin tilts his head, genuinely surprised that the guy is still conscious, wondering if that holy aura gave him some extra defensive armor. Down on all fours, Redhead pants and drools on the cold stone, his pride completely shattered alongside his ribcage. Flexing his blood-stained hands with an unhinged glint in his eye, Jin grins, asking how many more beatings the knight can handle before breaking. Flutter? Before Jin can unleash a follow-up strike, a long white cloak suddenly sweeps across the ring, blocking his path. Stepping down onto the arena floor, the silver-haired senior firmly grabs his junior's shoulder and calls an immediate end to the fight, declaring it their loss. Commentary? Talk about a swift corporate surrender. The senior saw the writing on the wall and threw in the towel before his buddy became a permanent stain on the floor. With a stern look, the Silver Knight promises to grant Jin whatever he wants, as agreed, eager to cut their losses and pull his battered comrade out of harm's way. Jin stands there looking utterly disappointed, slumping his shoulders as he mutters under his breath about how much of a buzzkill that was. Wiping the smear of blood off his lip with a cold chuckle, Jin decides to take the win, even if he didn't get to finish his workout. The entire tavern erupts into deafening cheers and shouts, with mercenaries slamming their beer mugs and celebrating the massive payoff from their bets. Commentary? Look at these degenerate gamblers going wild. Half of them were sweating bullets 2 minutes ago, and now they're acting like they called it all along. Crickets chirp. We cut away from the chaotic arena to the quiet night sky over a massive, opulent estate known as the Golden Bug Wolves Mansion. Slurp! Inside the dimly lit hall, disgusting chewing noises echo as grease drippings spill onto a dining table loaded with meat. Meet Derek and Cedric, the two grossly obese sons of the Golden Bug, shoving roasted turkey legs and fine wine down their throats in total gluttony. Between massive bites of meat, they grumble furiously about the Order Alliance taking 10 whole days to grant them entry inside the wall, despite all the bribes they paid. Grease dripping from his chin, Derek scoffs that those holy bastards are all talk and no real substance when it comes to business. Grabbed by a sudden wave of anxiety, Cedric shoves a giant fistful of food into his mouth, wondering out loud if their bodies can even survive that long. Commentary? This dinner scene is straight up grotesque. The artist made sure you can practically smell the grease and desperate sweat through the screen. Glow! As the moonlight hits their bare backs, horrifying clusters of pulsing bright blue alien-like pustules and boils are seen squirming under their skin. Squish! A horrifying close-up reveals the translucent blue tumors throbbing maliciously on their bodies, a terrifying ticking time bomb of corruption. Russell, the next morning under a calm, sunny sky, leaves drift through the breeze as Raymond stands beneath a gigantic tree, introducing the fundamentals of mana arts. He explains that mana arts involve treating external energy as an extension of one's own limbs to enhance physical strikes or weapon deadliness. Shing! Demonstrating the core technique, Raymond places his gloved hand on his heavy broadsword, gathering a bright yellow aura around the hilt. Commentary. Standard anime training session unlocked. Time for the high-level master to show off a move that cuts down half a forest. Sacred Fire Slash! With a blinding flash of yellow light, Raymond draws his blade in a flawless arc, sending a razor-sharp wave of energy through the forest. Boom! Birds scatter in terror into the clouds as the giant tree trunks are instantly severed, crashing onto the forest floor with a thunderous roar. Click! Smoothly sheathing his blade while yellow embers dance in the air, Raymond stands with absolute perfection, completely unbothered by the destruction behind him. Clap, clap! Rex snaps back into full fanboy mode, clapping hysterically and showering his senior with praise. Drooling over Raymond's perfection, Rex proclaims him to be the radiant hope of all holy knights, until Raymond coldly tells him to get lost. Whoosh! Instant comic relief! Rex instantly transforms into a goofy chibi wolf boy, saluting wildly and running away while wagging his tail. Commentary. The art style shift here is top-tier comedy, bro. Went from a serious holy warrior to a needy golden retriever in 3 seconds flat. Standing in the background, Jin watches this absurd interaction with a deadpan expression, picturing an actual dog panting behind the knight. Turning his gaze toward the cleanly sliced wooden stumps, Jin ponders whether that display was a true high-tier mana art compared to Rex's crude strikes. Stroking his chin thoughtfully, Jin deadpans to himself, wondering why anyone needs a fancy technique just to chop down a tree. Raymond turns back around, telling Jin to stop daydreaming and pay close attention so he can replicate the demonstration. Standing behind Jin to correct his posture, Raymond explains that when you flex, your veins pop and muscles contract, trapping the mana within your body tissues. Close up on Raymond's composed face as he breaks down the internal mechanics of holding energy inside the muscle fibers. Commentary. Raymond thinks he's teaching a complete novice here, which makes Jin's hidden talent even more hilarious. Listening attentively, Jin exhales a quiet breath, noting in his mind that this explanation matches what Claire taught him in the past. Froosh! As Jin breathes out, wisps of vibrant blue aura flicker around his eyes and lips, signaling that he's about to blow everyone's minds. Ever wonder what happens when a guy suddenly realizes he's walking around like a nuclear reactor? Jin stares down at his glowing blue hands in total shock, wondering where this massive ocean of mana hiding inside him even came from. Flashback mode hits, reminding him of when Claire laid her hands on his chest, transferring her own tranquil energy into his body to save his life. Commentary. Talk about a high-tier support character. Claire basically handed him a cheat code and didn't even charge him interest. Whoosh! As Jin channels that residual power, a sinister pitch-black and purple aura starts creeping up his neck like a malevolent shadow. Unaware of the Demon Lord energy brewing next to him, Raymond calmly lectures Jin on how to slowly consume the energy by moving his muscles. Swirl! Suddenly, Raymond freezes mid-sentence as a violent wave of dark purple mana erupts from Jin, wrapping around his broadsword like a dark vortex. Raymond's eye practically pops out of his socket in absolute horror, realizing this kid didn't just learn mana arts in 5 seconds flat, he totally unlocked something completely forbidden. Commentary. The artist adding that subtle chromatic aberration on Raymond's face perfectly captures the "I messed up" realization. Shing! The dark purple energy solidifies over Jin's massive blade, extending into a jagged edge of pure dark magic. Raymond mutters to himself that mana arts take their visual form from a person's inner psyche, which makes Jin's pitch-black aura utterly terrifying to behold. Glaring down with a mixture of awe and cold dread, Raymond internally panics, wondering what kind of monster or dark secret is actually dwelling inside this mercenary. Jin lifts the blade across his eyes, peering through the dark flames with a sinister, terrifying grin that proves he is loving every second of this power trip. Commentary? Bro has full main character energy right now, and honestly, we are 100% here for it. Whoosh! With effortless grace, Jin drops low and slashes his dark sword through the air, sending massive purple arc waves slicing across the training grounds. Boom! The weight of the swing creates a massive atmospheric shockwave, sweeping dust and dark embers across the forest. Jin lowers his weapon with a disappointed frown, complaining to himself that the move feels a bit clunky and inefficient for the amount of effort required. Commentary: classic overpowered protagonist move. Destroys a landscape on his first attempt and still gives it a 6 out of 10 review. Flexing the dark blade with a smirk, Jin admits that despite the inefficiency, flexing dark magic looks undeniably cool, and he can't wait to test it on a real target. Claire comes trotting over with a beaming smile, showering Jin with compliments for mastering high-level mana arts on his very first try. Adjusting his heavy bag, Jin looks back at Claire with a sincere expression, asking if she's all right since he realized he's been using her own transferred mana this whole time. Claire stops dead in her tracks, her cheeks flushing bright red as she stammers out an embarrassed response. Commentary: the romance subplot teasing is real. Look at her trying so hard to play it cool after getting caught giving him a permanent buff. Brushing it off with a cute wave and a smile, Claire tells him it's just a gift for saving her life before, so he shouldn't stress over it. Jin turns away thoughtfully, noting that the sheer amount of mana she gave him was way too massive to be a casual gift, but it definitely accelerated his growth. Clap, clap! Riding past on horseback, Rex scoffs loudly, mocking Jin for getting all excited over mastering basic foundational techniques. Glaring down with supreme arrogant energy, Redhead tells Jin not to slack off and reminds him to bow down in gratitude for Lord Raymond's precious time. Jin and Claire give him the ultimate deadpan side-eye, with Jin realizing this salty knight is still throwing a temper tantrum over getting humiliated in the arena yesterday. Commentary: the chibi face reactions here are top-tier comedic relief. A dangerous glint flashes in Jin's eye as a smirk spreads across his face, deciding that since he's bored, it's time to bruise this guy's fragile ego again. Slap! Without missing a beat, Jin reaches out and delivers a thunderous palm strike right onto the rear end of Rex's horse. Hey! The horse's eyes bug out in shock as it rears back with a violent screech, sending Redhead flailing frantically as he clings to the reins for dear life. Whoosh! The horse bolts down the road at light speed, with Rex screaming in terror, while Raymond calmly apologizes to Jin and promises to keep his junior in check. Commentary: Jin literally solved his annoying knight problem with a single horse slap. That's peak petty genius right there. Boom! Before they can catch their breath, an enraged scream echoes from the nearby transport caravan, cutting off their conversation. Crash! Plates, roasted turkey legs, grapes, and wine goblets go flying into the sky as a spoiled noble throws a massive tantrum inside his carriage. Jin glares over at the commotion, asking what's going on, but Raymond just sighs, telling him not to bother getting involved. Pointing toward the massive cargo lift attached to a giant beast, Raymond explains it's just the usual abusive power trip from their high-paying employers. Flashback reveals the two grossly obese sons of the Golden Bug gluttonously shoving entire turkeys into their mouths, dripping grease everywhere while screaming for more food. Commentary: these two guys are competing for the title of least sympathetic side characters in manhwa history. Raymond turns his head with a cold look, stating that ever since their father died, they've done nothing but binge eat and throw fits if a meal is delayed by 2 seconds. Stroking his chin, Jin narrows his eyes in suspicion, thinking to himself that this level of extreme gluttony feels way too sinister to be simple stress-induced eating. Chomp! A sickening close-up shows the flesh on the son's face warping and bulging as black parasitic veins spread across his lips and jaw. Ugh, throbbing translucent boils and pulsing alien pustules writhe under their skin as they shovel food down their throats like mindless husks. Jin's instincts scream in alarm as he senses a terrifying, monstrous presence rapidly expanding inside the carriage. Commentary: you know shit is about to hit the fan when even the stoic MC looks visibly disturbed by the energy shift. Pamp, close up on Jin's pupil shrinking in total shock as a sudden wave of dark energy ruptures the air. Grar! The massive Tarrasque beast carrying the entire mansion on its back violently rears up, thrashing around and hurling supply barrels everywhere. Roar! With a deafening roar that shakes the earth, the giant beast smashes its armor-plated head into the ground, sending shockwaves through the camp. Guard workers scatter in total chaos, shrieking in terror as the beast carrying their rich clients completely loses control. Raymond's face pales as he realizes the dangerous truth. The Golden Bug's sons inside that mansion are the ones causing this frenzy. Turning back on his horse, Raymond shouts out for Rex to fall into formation immediately. Shing! Raymond draws his broadsword as brilliant golden holy aura explodes around his body like a blazing inferno. Commentary: say what you want about the Holy Order, but Raymond's power-up sequence always looks insanely crisp. Galloping full speed toward the rampaging monster, Raymond orders his men to prioritize client safety and pull the beast down if necessary. Thud. The massive Tarrasque thrashes wildly against the stone wall, crushing nearby structures beneath its weight. Crack. Suddenly, massive, razor-sharp pitch-black spikes burst out through the roof and walls of the Golden Mansion carriage. Kaboom! The entire wooden mansion disintegrates into flying splinters as dark, writhing tendrils shoot into the sky. Squeak! A nightmare-inducing, fleshy abomination with rows of jagged teeth, a thrashing, slimy tongue, and thick parasite tentacles emerges from the wreckage, letting out a blood-curdling screech. Claire sprints up behind Jin, her jaw dropped in utter terror as she gasps out whether that horror is a corrupted abomination. Jin stands his ground, staring down the massive, writhing eldritch horror with sharp eyes, ready to put his brand new dark mana arts to the ultimate test. Commentary? Talk about perfect timing. Jin literally just complained about wanting a real target to test his dark magic, and the universe delivered a giant tentacle monster. Ever wonder what happens when rich, greedy nobles eat so much cursed demonic power that they literally turn into eldritch flesh monsters? Claire stares in utter terror as the horrible truth dawns on her. These aren't just wild beasts, but human beings twisted by dark karma. Jin narrows his eyes as his pupil glints with a dangerous red flare, taking in the reality that humans can actually degrade into mind-shattering abominations when corrupted by demonic forces. Snort! Taking a deep, calm breath, Lord Raymond doesn't hesitate for a single second, preparing to show everyone why he holds the title of a Holy Knight. Swoosh! Vaulting off his horse with explosive speed, Raymond leaps sky high, channeling radiant holy mana into his massive broadsword as he targets the writhing flesh monster above. Commentary? Raymond jumping straight into a giant alien tentacle mass without hesitation proves he's either insanely brave or just lacks a basic survival instinct. Shing! With a blinding flash of divine light, Raymond executes a brilliant upward slash that slices clean through the monster's towering body. Split! A blinding golden ray cuts the eldritch horror in two, sending dark blood and severed flesh spraying across the sky in dramatic fashion. Roar! Spotting his junior knight trapped under the falling debris, Raymond screams out Rex's name, desperately trying to clear the landing zone. Gasp! Down on the ground, Rex looks up with his eyes wide in absolute panic as a massive piece of rotting flesh comes hurtling straight toward his head. Commentary. Look at Rex's face. Bro was acting like a tough guy 5 minutes ago, and now he looks like he just saw his entire life flash before his eyes. Boom! Raymond's holy aura unleashes a massive shockwave upon impact, shattering the stone pavement and carving deep grooves into the battlefield. Splat! Severed tentacles and oozing chunks of monster flesh rain down like horrific meat hail, showering the forest floor in dark sludge. Wriggle! Just when they think the fight is over, the sliced monster core begins to pulse and swirl, rapidly stitching its torn meat back together. Raymond's jaw drops in complete disbelief as he realizes this dark parasite possesses instantaneous regeneration that defies all holy magic. Commentary. Classic boss fight rule. If the health bar doesn't pop up after you cut it in half, you're definitely in for round 2. Thud! Rising behind Rex like a nightmare straight out of a horror movie, the reassembled monster opens a jaw full of razor teeth and locks its glowing red eyes on him. Rex grits his teeth in sheer dread, realizing he's completely pinned down and directly in the crosshairs of a hungry eldritch abomination. Slash! A bloody tentacle strikes down like a whip, narrowly missing Rex's chest as dark blood splatters across his polished armor. Crash! The sheer force of the impact tears up the ground, sending dust and crimson spray erupting into the air. Whoosh! Dark tendrils sweep across the battlefield, forcing everyone to scramble for cover as the monster's frenzy reaches a boiling point. Commentary? The sheer chaotic energy of this panel is unreal. The artist is really going all out with the grimdark aesthetic here. Dash! Screaming Rex's name again, Raymond charges back into the storm of tentacles, refusing to let another comrade die on his watch. Overhead, the monstrosity opens a dripping, multi-layered maw lined with jagged fangs, dripping acidic saliva directly onto Rex's trembling frame. Splat! Blood splatters across the dirt as the monster's thrashing limbs tear through the defense line, painting the road in crimson. Jin and the surrounding mercenaries watch in stunned silence, realizing that even high-tier holy knights are getting pushed to their absolute limits. Slice! A severed monster limb hits the dirt with a wet thump, spraying black fluid across the grass as the beast continues to attack relentlessly. Grit. Sweating profusely, Raymond grits his teeth until they practically bleed, furious at his own inability to instantly vaporize his dark creature. Commentary. You gotta respect Raymond's work ethic. Man has taken full responsibility for the entire squad, while Rex just lies there collecting dust. Clang! Raising his heavy broadsword high above his head, Raymond gathers every drop of holy mana remaining in his body for one final devastating strike. Sacred Fire Slash! A torrential wave of holy yellow flames erupts from Raymond's blade, scorching the eldritch horror with divine judgment. Kriak! The monster shrieks in high-pitched agony as holy flames cook its rotting flesh, sending smoke billowing into the clouds. Thud! Dropping down into the smoke, Raymond gasps for air as he scans the charred wreckage for any sign of Rex's body. Reaching out into the writhing mass of burning meat, Raymond yells for Rex to hold on, desperate to pull him out before the beast reforms. Shatter! Suddenly, dozens of thick, needle-sharp black tendrils burst out from the dirt, locking around Raymond and trapping him in a cage of dark spikes. Trapped, pushed against the monster's pulsating core, Raymond roars at the top of his lungs, refusing to give up even as dark energy drains his strength. Commentary. The cliffhanger tension here is chef's kiss. Just when you think the paladin saves the day, the monster pulls a reverse trap card. Spotting the commander in critical danger, Jin's expression goes cold as ice, realizing it's finally time for him to step in and handle business. Swoosh! Pitch black tendrils rain down like deadly ballista bolts, threatening to impale Raymond right where he stands. Flash! Moving like a silent phantom, Jin dashes into the fray, grabbing Raymond in midair and slicing through the incoming spikes in one smooth motion. Swipe! Swooping low to the ground, Jin uses his immense strength to hurl the heavy paladin safely out of the monster's kill zone. Crash! Raymond tumbles across the dirt, battered and bleeding, staring in awe at the mercenary who just saved his life with effortless speed. Panic spreads through the crowd like wildfire as the guards scream that their top holy knight has been neutralized, leaving them totally defenseless. Wriggle! The monstrous abomination swells to double its size, pulsing with malevolent dark purple aura and radiating pure demonic malice. Roar! Spewing vile black fluid from its gaping maw, the creature lets out an earth-shattering roar that confirms it has completely cast aside its human soul. Staring down the terrifying horror, Jin secretly ponders a dark question. If he keeps devouring internal monster cores to grow stronger, is this horrifying fate waiting for him at the end of the road? Commentary? Deep existential dread mid-combat? Classic main character internal monologue right there. Grip! Shaking off the dark thoughts, Jin grips his massive blade tight, deciding that existential crises can wait until after this ugly freak is dead. Dodge! Whisking through the air, Jin effortlessly weaves between razor-sharp tendrils, his movements looking like a fluid shadow dance. Swish! With incredible precision, Jin delivers a sweeping horizontal slash, cleanly severing a dozen heavy tentacles in midair. Gloop! The severed tentacle stumps bubble with disgusting gray sludge, attempting to knit back together instantly. Blur! Closing the distance at breakneck speed, Jin glides right beneath the monster's main body, positioning himself directly under its central core. Gape! The creature's massive central maw snarls down at Jin, exposing rows of concentric teeth ready to grind him to dust. Boom! Putting his entire body weight into the swing, Jin unleashes a heavy upward slash that hits the monster's flesh with absolute brutal force. Slide! Jin slides across a dirt path as the sheer impact of a strike sends shockwaves rippling through the creature's dense hide. Jin clicks his tongue in annoyance, realizing that despite his physical strength, the monster's soft, squishy flesh is absorbing most of the kinetic impact. Commentary? It's like trying to cut a giant memory foam pillow with a sword. Super frustrating. But Jin's adaptability is what makes him so slick. Whoosh! Suddenly, a mercenary from the sidelines steps up and hurls a heavy barbed spear straight toward the target with maximum velocity. Stab! The spear buries itself deep into the monster's squishy flesh with a loud crunch, opening up a fresh wound for Jin to exploit. Just when you think Jin has to carry the entire squad on his back, the mercenaries actually decide to step up and lend a hand. A sleek female mage steps forward, unleashing a glowing blue buff spell right over the weapons to boost everyone's combat power. Radiant blue aura coats their spears as dark sludge slithers beneath them. Now that's what I call a proper party buff. The spearmen charge in, shouting and stabbing at the severed pieces, realizing the magic is slowing down the monster's insane regeneration rate. Commentary? Honestly, seeing fodder NPCs actually contribute instead of standing around like terrified statues is a rare W in Manhwa history. Jin glances back over his shoulder, genuinely surprised to see these guys actually pulling their weight for once. He lets out a quick smirk, thinking to himself that maybe these mercenaries aren't completely hopeless after all. But before anyone can celebrate, the monstrous mass pulses with a dark purple aura, radiating pure malevolence into the air. Jin's eyes narrow as he feels the heavy shift in the atmosphere. The monster's energy just spiked through the roof. Groan. The flesh rattles violently as terrifying, twisted human faces erupt right out of the beast's massive shoulders. Commentary. The body horror aesthetic in this panel is seriously top tier. The artist went all out with the grimdark vibe. The mercenaries gasp in horror as they recognize the faces. Those belong to the Golden Bug's own sons, merged into this demonic nightmare. Whip! Writhing black tendrils shoot out in every direction like a deadly eldritch hurricane. The razor-sharp spikes slice through the sky with terrifying velocity, forcing everyone to scramble for cover. Splat! The monster's tendrils snatch back all the severed chunks of flesh, reabsorbing them in seconds while the mercenaries curse in frustration. Seeing the beast heal itself, Jin leaps high into the air, closing the distance with absolute precision. Commentary. Jin literally has zero chill. He sees a terrifying giant meat monster, and his first thought is to dive headfirst into it. Slash! Bringing his heavy blade down with full force, Jin carves straight through the abomination's top layer. Scream! The monstrosity lets out a blood-curdling shriek as its massive central mouth gapes wide in sheer agony. Clang! Jin's blade clashes against the dense flesh, sending sparks flying as he pushes against the creature's immense weight. Jin lands smoothly beside a mercenary who anxiously checks on him, but Jin warns him to stay sharp because this beast just evolved into a much bigger threat. Staring down the gaping maw lined with jagged teeth, Jin realizes those extra noble faces gave the creature a massive power surge. Jin calmly analyzes the situation, knowing they just need to keep hacking away at its body until the core is exposed, even if its regeneration speed is total cheat code status. The mercenary gives a confident thumbs up, telling Jin monster's attack patterns. Commentary? You gotta love the unwarranted optimism of side characters right before a raid boss enters Phase 2. Jin smirks, taking their word for it as a dangerous dark glint enters his eyes. Flare! Swirling dark purple mana erupts around Jin's blade, coating it in deadly shadow magic as he prepares to unleash his true strength. Boom! Dashing forward with terrifying momentum, Jin charges directly into the monster's kill zone without a single shred of fear. Swipe! Moving like an absolute phantom, Jin delivers rapid, blinding slashes that butcher through tendrils before they can even land. Ching! With a single elegant shadow slash, Jin cleaves through the monster's defense like a hot knife through butter. Commentary. The shadow animation effects here are ridiculously sleek. Jin's combat style is pure eye candy. Scree! Dark blood sprays across the path as the creature howls in an agonized frenzy. Slice! Cutting deep into the central mass, Jin finally exposes the glowing blue internal core pulsating beneath the thick hide. Blur! Without wasting a fraction of a second, Jin weaves through a storm of dark strikes, keeping his eyes locked onto his target. Stab! Thrusting his aura-infused sword straight into the pulsating core, Jin coldly declares that the fight is officially over. Jin's eye glows with a menacing crimson light as his dark magic completely overpowers the beast's demonic core. Commentary. The contrast between the bright blue core and Jin's red eye flare gives total final boss energy. Rip! With one final brutal yank, Jin extracts the glowing blue core, causing the massive monster body to instantly burst apart. Down on the ground, the mercenaries collapse onto their knees, panting heavily and struggling to catch their breath after the brutal battle. Meanwhile, Claire kneels beside Lord Raymond, tending to his severe battle wounds while he rests after almost being turned into monster food. Thud! Chunks of dead, deflated monster flesh rain down and hit the dirt path, completely lifeless now that the core is gone. The remaining dark tendrils shrivel up into useless slime on the grass, proving the creature is finally dead for good. Commentary? Cleaning up after a giant monster fight must be an absolute nightmare for the local road maintenance crew. Wow! A roaring cheer erupts through the forest as the surviving squad realizes they actually made it out alive. Hugging each other in pure excitement, the mercenaries shout in celebration, already hyping up how famous they're going to be after taking down such a legendary abomination. Jin wipes the dark blood from his face and turns back to the crowd, giving them a quiet nod for a job well done. But as the crowd cheers, Jin's sharp instincts suddenly twitch as he notices something unusual on the ground. Right at his feet, the glowing blue core lies pulsating softly on the dirt path, completely ignored by everyone else. Nearby, the mercenaries are far too busy celebrating and hugging their buddies to notice anything happening in the shadows. Commentary? Classic mercenary behavior, celebrating victory before even checking if there's secret legendary loot sitting right on the floor. Meanwhile, hidden behind a thick tree trunk, a mysterious veiled woman with long red hair watches the entire scene unfold in total silence. Clutching her chest, the veiled lady sighs in disappointment, realizing the corrupt nobles met their tragic end because they couldn't control their own greed. A single tear falls down her cheek as she bitterly laments how utterly useless and incompetent they turned out to be in the end. Peeking around the tree, her sharp eyes narrow as she spots Jin quietly stepping toward the abandoned core. Snatch! Jin reaches down with his gloved hand and firmly grabs the glowing blue energy orb, keeping his movements smooth and subtle. Tucking the core under his heavy cloak, Jin walks away like nothing happened, leaving the veiled woman stunned as she wonders who this mysterious warrior really is. Swoosh! As dusk falls over the forest, the dust settles across the battlefield, and the group prepares to set up camp for the night. Sitting alone by the crackling campfire late at night, Jin pulls out the glowing blue core, quietly inspecting his brand new prize in the dark. Ever wondered what happens when you decide to eat a pulsating, glowing demon core like it's a giant jawbreaker? Well, Jin's about to find out the hard way as he pops the massive energy orb straight into his mouth. Crunch! The moment he swallows it down, his body recoils in shock as a wave of overwhelming psychic pressure slams straight into his brain, forcing his eyes shut in agony. Whoosh! Suddenly, Jin's consciousness gets dragged into a horrifying memory. He sees a massive noble guy strapped down to an altar table like a lab rat, squirming in total panic. Imagine getting a side order of trauma with your daily magic snack. Jin's digestive system is really taking a beating today. Above the helpless captive stands a cold, veiled woman with vibrant red hair, casually reminding him that his father, the Golden Bug, died purely due to his own weakness. She glides across the gloomy dungeon floor, warning the bound noble that if he wants to survive this twisted experiment, he better step up and produce some real results. Pulling out a small vial of glowing blue liquid, the red-haired woman sneers beneath her veil, demanding to see if this noble actually has what it takes to join her sinister organization. Drip. Without a shred of mercy, she uncaps the vial and pours the mysterious glowing slime right into the screaming noble's wide-open eye. Writhe! Black corruptive veins erupt across the man's flesh, twisting his body into a demonic monster as dark tendrils burst violently out of his eye socket. Commentary? The body horror in this man's memories is absolute nightmare fuel. Talk about an aggressive eye drop reaction. Agony! The noble shrieks as dark karma completely rewires his DNA, transforming him into the horrifying multi-faced abomination Jin fought earlier. Gasp! Jin snaps back to reality in a cold sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs as he desperately clutches his chest after witnessing that gruesome vision. Gag! His stomach churns violently as the psychic residue of the memory hits his throat, making him gag on the spot. Dash! Unable to hold it in for another second, Jin sprints straight into the nearby bushes, abandoning all composure. Commentary: pro tip for webtoon protagonists, maybe don't eat glowing alien core meat if you've got a sensitive stomach. Blapsh! Dropping to his knees, Jin spews his guts out on the dirt path, completely miserable after absorbing that cursed memory. Pant! Catching his breath with sweat dripping down his face, Jin realizes with a bitter chuckle that consuming raw internal cores comes with some seriously nasty side effects. He leans back in the forest, connecting the dots. These cores don't just grant power, they carry the lingering memories and curses of the victims devoured by the beast. Wiping his mouth, Jin ponders the nightmare he just witnessed, realizing that memory belonged to one of the Golden Bug's sons who was forcefully turned into a monster. Hence, remembering how the rumor said abominations are created when humans are corrupted by karma, Jin realizes that glowing blue liquid poured into the noble's eye was concentrated karma itself. The plot thickens faster than instant ramen, so there's a whole shadowy cabal out here, weaponizing karma like biological warfare. He visualizes the red-haired woman's face, trying to piece together her true identity in this grand conspiracy. Jin's eyes narrow as a sudden chilling revelation hits him. That veiled woman wasn't just a rogue mage, she's an actual dark priest. Before he can process the terrifying thought any further, Claire steps out from behind the trees, calling out to Jin that the squad is ready to move out. Jin quickly looks back over his shoulder, desperately trying to play it cool despite sweating bullets and looking like he just ran a marathon. Claire crosses her arms with a suspicious glare, calling him out on his drenched shirt and asking if he seriously ate another raw monster core like an idiot. Honestly, Claire's disappointed mom energy whenever Jin eats random dungeon garbage is hilarious. Jin internally panics, wondering if he should spill the beans about the Dark Priest or keep quiet about his core eating hallucination side effects. Deciding that telling her he saw a monster's tragic backstory in a fever dream would sound totally insane, Jin brushes it off and decides to keep the secret to himself for now. Meanwhile, perched high up in the rocky shadows, the red-haired Dark Priest herself quietly gazes down at Jin with an enigmatic smirk. Jin and Claire walk back toward the camp together, completely oblivious to the dangerous eyes stalking them from the tree line. The Dark Priest's sharp eyes narrow through her veil, intensely tracking Jin's every movement with deep intrigue. Commentary. You know a character is a total badass when even the secret main villains are standing in the bushes taking notes on them. Back at the camp, Lord Raymond and the mercenaries gather around Jin, discussing their next tactical moves after surviving the raid. Tapping her chin in thought, the Dark Priest ponders how a random guy who eats raw monster cores like candy is somehow performing the work of the Order Alliance. She tilts her head slightly, her curiosity burning brighter as she analyzes Jin's incredible hidden potential. Adjusting her veil, she wonders out loud whether Jin will end up being a powerful ally or a deadly enemy the next time their paths cross. Title card. The story takes a breath as we shift scenes to the aftermath of the battle high up in the rugged mountain wilderness. Pay respect to the fallen fodder NPCs. At least this show gives them a proper burial instead of leaving them as monster snacks. The squad gathers solemnly around a stone tomb where Lord Raymond plants his massive sword into the ground to honor their fallen comrade. The heavy blade stands tall atop the stone mound, acting as a humble monument for a warrior who gave everything on the battlefield. Lord Raymond bows his head in solemn prayer, offering his respects to Ea, the god of harmony, for the soul of their brave comrade Rex. Deep sorrow hangs over the misty forest as the surviving mercenaries stand in silent tribute beneath the overcast sky. Standing at the back of the crowd, Jin quietly watches Lord Raymond's intense devotion, reflecting on the brevity of life in this brutal world. Just when you think we're getting an emotional drama moment, the universe decides to spawn a wild fantasy creature. Suddenly, Lord Raymond glances up as a subtle shadow looms over the cliffside above. Gasp! Raymond's eyes go wide in shock as he catches sight of something majestic perched high upon the rocky peak. Silhouetted against the bright sun, a legendary beast stands tall over the ravine, sending a chill through the entire squad. Growl. It's a massive red wolf, sporting two long whipping tentacle tails and glowing blue eyes that radiate ancient primal authority. Thud! Without hesitating for a single second, Lord Raymond drops straight onto one knee, bowing with immense reverent gratitude. Jin blinks in utter confusion, staring at Raymond like he's lost his mind, and asking what on earth he's doing throwing a full worship session mid-funeral. Commentary. Raymond went full religious fanatic mode in 0.2 seconds. Bro's ready to start a whole cult for an oversized fox. Raymond fervently explains that according to their holy order, the red wolf is considered the divine companion of Ea, the god of harmony. Yawn. Meanwhile, up on the rock, the majestic divine beast lets out a super lazy, adorable yawn, totally ruining its intimidating godly aura. Raymond swoons in spiritual bliss, declaring that the sacred wolf's appearance is a clear sign that the god of harmony is comforting their grieving hearts. Jin casually deadpans that the divine holy beast is literally just his pet mutt, driving Raymond into an absolute rage as he screams that calling a sacred creature a mutt is total blasphemy. Commentary. The sheer comedic timing of Jin treating a mythical holy entity like a stray backyard dog is peak comedy. Jin sighs internally, realizing Raymond refuses to believe a single word he says. Flare. Jin's eyes flare with a terrifying crimson aura as he looks up at the cliff, coldly commanding the beast to stop acting cute and get its butt down here right now. Flinch! The holy divine wolf instantly freaks out with cartoonish terror, scrambling down the sheer rock wall as fast as its paws can carry it. Imagine trying to explain to a holy paladin that the terrifying, untamable, mythical monster standing right in front of you is actually just a big old good boy who loves high fives. Just when Raymond thinks he's seen it all, the red wolf casually lifts its paw for Jin, completely shattering the paladin's mind. Commentary. Raymond looks like his entire worldview just got blue screened of death. You can literally see his brain recalculating life itself. Staring in absolute disbelief, Raymond mutters under his breath how this legendary creature was deemed untamable by his entire holy order, yet it's acting like a trained golden retriever. Jin holds the red wolf's paw with total indifference, casually explaining that he just killed a werewolf earlier, and this giant beast has been tailing him ever since, like a lost stray. Raymond's face here is pure "I don't get paid enough for this fantasy nonsense" energy. Raymond squints at Jin, internally screaming as he tries to process what kind of freaking nature he's dealing with. Turning away to catch his breath, Raymond tries to regain his composure before his holy brain completely melts down from Jin's casual disrespect for ancient beast lore. His gaze drifts over to the stone tomb nearby, where his massive broadsword rests atop the humble grave of their fallen comrade Rex, with the red wolf standing quietly beside it. Turning back to Jin with a serious expression, Raymond clears his throat and politely asks if he could request a small favor from the overpowered mercenary. Raymond really said, if you're going to keep a god-tier mythical beast as a pet, at least give him a respectable name. Raymond bows slightly, asking Jin if he would consider naming the red wolf Rex to honor their fallen brother. He explains that calling a creature revered as a holy divine beast by their entire order a mutt is borderline heresy and painful to listen to. Clench. Placing his hand on the sword hilt, Raymond speaks with deep emotion, declaring that Rex fought the forces of evil with unyielding resolve until his very last breath. A bitter memory flashes of Rex's bloody final moment, a lone warrior refusing to let go of his blade, even as life faded from his eyes. Gotta give props to Raymond here. This is a genuinely touching tribute, turning a tragedy into a living legacy. Closing his eyes in prayer, Raymond asks Jin to let the red wolf carry on Rex's noble spirit under the same name. Jin gazes at the grave as the red wolf's fluffy tail swishes beside him, silently digesting the weight of Raymond's emotional request. Turning to the massive beast, Jin looks it dead in the eyes and asks if it's actually cool with taking on the name Rex. Nod. Without a single second of hesitation, the red wolf gives a firm, heroic nod, giving its official stamp of approval. Look at that grin on Jin, bro. Went from treating this beast like a stray pest to adopting a legendary battle companion in record time. Smirking back at the wolf, Jin decides that the deal is officially sealed. Raymond lets out a soft, relieved sigh and smiles, formally acknowledging the red wolf as Rex from this day forward. Thud. Suddenly, the heavy impact of a wooden staff echoes through the forest as a mysterious figure steps directly into their makeshift camp. Jin and Raymond snap their heads around in surprise as a blindfolded old monk chuckles softly, asking if he happened to walk in at an awkward time. Hold up, whenever an anime or manhwa character wears a blindfold over their eyes, you know they are secretly an absolute menace. Jin's eyes narrow as he quickly gauges the old man's overwhelming presence. Bam! The atmospheric pressure heavy in the air reveals the newcomer's identity, Elder Bo, one of the highest-ranking authorities of the third pioneer city. Flanked by an attendant monk, Elder Bao casually strolls forward with his cane, sending a ripple of tension through the gathered crowd. Tap, tap, the heavy synchronized footsteps of armed city guards rumble in the background, signaling that this isn't just a friendly social visit. Commentary? The art team always cooks when showing mob characters surrounding the MC. You could just feel the awkward side-eye energy in the crowd. Dozens of mercenaries and townspeople gather around, watching the unexpected high-level confrontation unfold. Bowing his head with utmost respect, Raymond greets Elder Bo, trying to maintain proper protocol despite the heavy atmosphere. Elder Bo offers a polite apology for dropping in during a solemn funeral, while Raymond respectfully asks what brought an elder all the way out into the wilderness. Gasp! Elder Bo's tone turns sharp as he drops a bombshell. He's personally investigating the mysterious deaths of the Golden Bug's sons. Raymond's eyes go wide with shock as his heart skips a beat, stunned that the city high command is still digging into that incident. Raymond stepping up to defend Jin's squad without hesitation proves he's a true bro, even if he's a bit overly dramatic. Raymond interjects, asking Elder Bo if the authorities still seriously suspect the mercenaries of committing the murder. Jin keeps a poker face while internally analyzing the situation, realizing it's totally natural for them to be suspected since the clients died while carrying a massive fortune. Raymond defends their record, asking if his submitted battle evidence wasn't enough, but Elder Bao reassures him that the evidence was plenty sufficient. Pause. However, the old monk's smile vanishes into a grave expression as he lets out a cold, heavy, Pause. Commentary. The plot thickens. Elder Bo might be blindfolded, but his detective instinct is sharper than a razor blade. He points out that while their innocence in the immediate fight is proven, how the victims transformed into dark abominations remains a sinister mystery. Step. Closing the distance in a flash, Elder Bo leans right into Jin's face, menacingly declaring that he smells the rotten stench of a dark priest all over this case. He locks his blindfolded gaze straight onto Jin, asking the young warrior what his personal opinion on the matter is. Jin's pupils shrink in shock as he realizes Elder Bo somehow knows his exact name without ever being introduced. Oh man, Jin's red eye flares absolute peak edge. He looks ready to turn this whole forest into a crime scene if Elder Bo pushes his buttons. Eyes blazing with crimson aura, Jin coldly asks if the Elder is outright accusing him of being a dark priest. Elder Bo remains stone-faced and unreadable, letting the suffocating tension hang thick between them. Title card. The scene transitions to the massive, fortress-like exterior of the Vritra Arena, located inside the third Pioneer City. Inside the grand arena, rows of weapon racks and stone training platforms set the stage for an intense, high-stakes showdown. Ah yes, the classic let's go to a closed arena so we can interrogate with fists trope. Classic manhwa move. Standing in the middle of the arena floor, Elder Bo remarks that warriors as strong as Jin usually have a famous track record from a young age. He continues his interrogation, pointing out that Jin basically spawned out of nowhere one day and immediately started flexing ridiculous world-breaking feats. Shadows? The Elder's voice deepens as he notes how suspiciously convenient it is that Jin was right at the center of the abomination incident. Leaning on his cane, Elder Bo turns to Jin and bluntly asks if he doesn't find his own background ridiculously shady. Commentary, Jin's internal reaction is hilarious. He's just sitting there thinking, bro is not wrong, but still. Jin internally sighs, admitting that to an outsider, his sudden rise to power definitely looks fishy. Flash, he remembers the absolute truth that he can never tell anyone here, the fact that he literally isn't from this world at all. Glare! Shaking off the thought, Jin's gaze hardens as a dangerous aura flickers in his red eyes once again. Looking down at the Elder, Jin bluntly asks what all this background questioning has to do with them standing in an arena about to spar. Raymond playing mediator here is so funny. He's genuinely worried Jin is going to collapse from fatigue, completely unaware Jin is a cheat code protagonist. Raymond steps in to defend Jin, reminding Elder Bo that Jin just finished a brutal battle and isn't at 100. As Jin silently agrees with Raymond's point, Elder Bo lets out a creepy, raspy chuckle, arrogantly asking so what if he's tired, setting up an explosive duel. Elder Bo drops the ultimate ultimatum, leaning in with a sly smirk and asking Jin if he's seriously refusing to cooperate with an official investigation. Talk about a heavy-handed entrance. Raymond stands there sweating bullets, internally screaming that this blindfolded old guy is being totally unreasonable and borderline unhinged. Jin's brain is working overtime trying to figure out a way out of this mess. He knows he can't just throw hands with a high-ranking elder over a misunderstanding, no matter how strong he is. Ah yes, the classic respect your elders dilemma, except the elder looks like he could snap a mountain in half with his bare hands. Jin sighs, realizing that picking a fight with an old monk is going to be way more hassle than it's worth. Just when Jin thinks he can talk his way out of it, Elder Bo casually tosses his walking cane to the ground with a soft thud, asking if Jin is doubting him just because of his age. Whoosh! A terrifying golden martial aura instantly erupts from Elder Bo's body, radiating pure pressure across the entire arena. Thud! Stepping down hard in his straw sandals, the Elder cracks the stone floor beneath him in a display of raw physical force. Never, ever underestimate the blindfolded old man in a manhwa. They are literally built to ruin your day with zero effort. In a blinding flash of motion, Elder Bo closes the distance, declaring that his title as Elder was earned purely through sheer, overwhelming strength. Jin barely has time to blink as his eyes widen in pure shock, realizing this old man moves like an absolute speed demon. Gathering concentrated energy into his palm, Elder Bo winds up for a brutal close-quarter strike. Boom! With a thunderous roar, Elder Bo delivers his signature Great Bell Strike directly into Jin's chest, creating a massive shockwave. The impact sends a violent surge of force through Jin's guard, causing him to cough up blood as he's blasted off his feet. Ouch! That hit sounded like a freight train crashing into a brick wall. The art team really went all out with those impact lines. Jin crashes heavily onto the stone floor, skidding across the arena from the brutal strike. Watching in horror, Raymond shouts for Jin to be careful, frantically warning him that Vritra monks are high-tier martial artists and Elder Bo is literally the strongest among them. Elder Bo chuckles raspy-like as he charges back in, teasing Raymond for taking sides and warning that this old man might just get jealous and go all out. Clash! A lightning-fast barrage of palm strikes and weapon clashes fills the arena as Jin desperately parries the Elder's aggressive assault. Elder Bo lets out a surprised grunt as he catches Jin's sharp blade strike directly between his bare palms with flawless precision. Catching a sword with bare hands? Bro thinks he's in an action movie. But hey, if you've got golden aura armor, why not flex? Jin grits his teeth in frustration, realizing the old man hit the exact spot where he took heavy damage during his fight with the monster. But as the pain pulses through his ribs, Jin suddenly freezes as something bizarre catches his attention. Examining his own body in disbelief, Jin realizes all the fatal wounds he took from the abomination have completely vanished into thin air. Even the fresh internal damage from Elder Bo's devastating blow is rapidly regenerating right before his eyes. Wait, hold up. Did Bro just unlock passive regeneration by eating a monster core like it was a piece of candy? Talk about the ultimate cheat code. Realization hits Jin like a truck. Devouring that monster core gave him the creature's insane healing abilities. A dark, wicked smirk spreads across Jin's face as he realizes he's basically immortal now. Boom! Screaming jackpot, Jin unleashes a terrifying counterattack, meeting Elder Bo's power with a brutal, explosive clash. Elder Bo grins widely as their powers collide, thoroughly impressed that Jin is fighting like a demon despite supposedly being badly injured. The old monk internally chuckles, wishing he could keep sparring all day, but knowing he shouldn't act like a hyperactive kid when there's business to settle. Commentary! The transition from intense fistfight to spiritual interrogation is so smooth. Elder Bo really had us believing this was just a brawl. Pushing Jin back with a blast of force, Elder Bo announces that since Jin proved his strength, it's time to move on to the real test. Raising 2 fingers in a solemn ritual sign, the Elder prepares to unleash his inner spiritual authority. Glow! A blinding, ancient symbol erupts across the Elder's blindfold as he activates his legendary Mind's Eye technique. A divine ring of golden light locks onto Jin, stunning the young warrior as the technique forces its way into his mind. Elder Bo chants calmly, explaining how he sacrificed his physical sight to open his third eye and achieve ultimate spiritual clarity. Commentary. The visual effects here are gorgeous. That glowing crest floating in midair looks straight out of a high fantasy RPG raid. The golden halo pulses wildly, piercing through space to peer directly into the essence of Jin's soul. Elder Bo demands to see Jin's true inner nature, seeking to reveal whether he's secretly a dark priest hiding in shadows or a rising beacon of light. But as his mind's eye enters Jin's soul, horrific shadowy tentacles explode out from the void. In the dark spiritual domain, a nightmare-inducing giant mantis beast rears its head, screeching with terrifying malevolence. Next to it, a colossal monster covered in dozens of glowing blood-red eyes stares down at the Elder's tiny soul form. Imagine invading someone's mind, expecting a normal soul, and instead stumbling into a literal eldritch horror zoo. Elder Bo picked the wrong mind to peek into. Panicking inside the dark void, Elder Bo tries to hold back the terrifying, beastly phantoms threatening to devour him. Splash! The Elder steps backward into the dark, watery abyss of Jin's soul realm, completely overwhelmed by the sheer madness around him. Snap back to reality. Elder Bo recoils in sheer terror, gasping for air as sweat drenches his face. Shaking uncontrollably, the old monk stammers in utter disbelief at the nightmare he just witnessed inside Jin's mind. Title card! A terrifying view of Jin's mental world reveals an army of massive, shadowy, god-tier beasts standing over the trembling Elder. Tap. Before Elder Bo can even regain his composure, a hand gently touches his shoulder from behind, making him flinch in shock. Jin leans down with a calm expression, politely asking if the Elder is okay. Completely unaware that his inner mental domain almost gave the old man a heart attack. Elder Bo looks like he aged another 20 years in 2 seconds. Seeing an overpowered Elder get genuinely traumatized is hilarious. Panting heavily, Elder Bo mutters that he's never seen a mental world so incomprehensibly terrifying in his life. Taking a deep breath, the Elder notes that since Jin's soul hasn't succumbed to dark corruption, he's definitely not a dark priest. Turning around, Elder Bo brings his palms together in a formal prayer bow, prompting Jin to stare at him in total confusion. The elder sincerely apologizes for his aggressive test, explaining that confirming Jin's true identity was a matter of utmost urgency for the city. With the misunderstandings resolved, Elder Bao reveals the true reason for his visit. He wants to recruit Jin for a critical quest involving the Dark Priests. Jin's eyes narrow in suspicion as he turns his attention toward the heavy arena doors opening behind them. And there's the big cliffhanger. Who's stepping through those doors? A new ally or an even bigger headache for Jin? Guess we gotta tune in next time. As a mysterious cloaked figure steps into the sunlight, Jin readies himself for whatever crazy trouble comes next. Just when you think things might calm down, a sharp pair of shoes steps onto the scene, bringing an oddly formal vibe into this chaos. Meet Cindy, the youngest daughter of the Golden Bug, introducing herself with absolute poise while everyone else is still catching their breath. But the calm doesn't last a second as red crimson aura erupts from Jin's body, scales creeping back across his skin in a terrifying display. Jin, glaring at his opponent, tells him to at least make some sense before opening his mouth, completely done with the villain monologues. Boom! Pure demonic aura floods the chamber as Jin prepares to drop the hammer on this spider-legged freak once and for all. Spoken with glowing rat eyes and monster scales armor fully activated, Jin mockingly asks how a wolf could ever bow down to a mere dog. Commentary? The villain's face here is pure comedy. Man looks like he just realized he picked a fight with the final boss at level 1. The cultist freaks out in total panic, realizing Jin was holding back his true power all along. Panicking for his life, the cultist screams for his spider minions to charge in and burn Jin to absolute cinders. Unbothered, Jin locks his reptilian eyes on his target and quietly invokes his devastating technique, Heavenly Punishment. Crash! A towering pillar of deadly crimson energy obliterates everything in its path, splitting the air in half. The colossal blast shreds through the giant spider monsters like paper, painting the walls green with monster blood. Come on, talk about overkilling the mob units. The art team went absolutely wild with these red lightning visual effects. The divine red strike continues to tear through the room with unstoppable force. An explosive surge of shockwaves wipes out the remaining summons in a fraction of a second, leaving pure destruction behind. Covered in dust and blood, the cultist gazes in horror at the massive power gap, wondering what kind of insane monster core Jin actually ate. Swoosh! Red energy arcs through the air as Jin cuts off every possible escape route in the blink of an eye. Thud! The impact smashes the cultist directly into the dirt, forcing a guttural groan from his lungs. Coughing up blood, the cultist realizes staying in this pit means instant death and frantically decides it's time to run for his life. Whish! Before he can even take a single step, Jin instantly vanishes and reappears right behind him like a literal ghost. The classic "he's right behind me, isn't he?" moment never gets old, especially when it involves an immortal dragon man. The cultist's eyes widen in sheer terror as cold sweat drenches his neck. Without saying a word, Jin reaches down and grabs hold of one of the creepy spider legs protruding from the cultist's back. Snap! With raw physical strength, Jin brutally rips the appendage right out the villain's spine. Crack! He tears off another leg without breaking a sweat, blood spraying across the stone floor. The cultist drops to his knees, howling in agony as his monster limbs are dismantled piece by piece. Terrified out of his mind, the villain frantically raises his hands, begging Jin to hold on and talk things out like civilized people. He tries to play the solidarity card, stammering that since they both ate monster cores, they should team up and build a mutually beneficial alliance. Commentary? Trying to negotiate with the guy currently ripping your limbs off is certainly a bold strategy. Let's see how that works out for him. Jin stands over him like a merciless judge, coldly declaring that the only useful thing he can offer is giving up all the information and secrets regarding the rest of the Dark Priests. Desperate, the cultist screams back, asking why Jin sides with humans when they'll just betray and abandon a monster like him anyway. Jin's narrow dragon eye glares down without a sliver of sympathy, stating that his rant doesn't answer the question. Seeing no mercy, the cultist pretends to surrender before Jin instantly lunges forward to shut him up for good. Looming overhead, Jin chillingly reminds him that he only gets one single chance to answer properly. Boom! Jin slams the villain straight into the bedrock, shutting down his pathetic fake surrender with brute force. With the threat completely neutralized, the dark red aura around Jin's body finally begins to cool down and fade away. Crackle! The stone-like scales covering his back shatter into tiny glowing fragments as the monster transformation deactivates. Blood drips down Jin's jaw as the intense physical feedback of using such monstrous power hits his system all at once. Commentary seeing the MC suffer side effects makes the power feel earned. Bro literally trades off his body's durability for god-tier stats. Wiping the blood from his mouth, Jin gasps heavily for air. Stumbling forward with heavy steps, Jin tries to keep his balance as his body completely short-circuits from exhaustion. Thud! His legs give out completely, sending him crashing face first onto the cratered arena floor. Lying flat on his back, Jin internally groans about how ridiculously exhausting this transformation form is on his stamina. He reflects on why he hates using this form. Even a few seconds of peak power wrecks his organs and drains every drop of energy. As heavy darkness creeps into the edges of his vision, Jin desperately tries to stay awake, knowing passing out here is dangerous. Through blurred, fading vision, he catches a glimpse of armored figures rushing down into the shattered pit toward him. Focusing his remaining strength, Jin recognizes the familiar red-haired knight leaning over him. It's Roland. Relief washes over as Roland turns to shouting at the medical team to bring a stretcher immediately. Looking down at the unconscious protagonist, Roland's expression turns dead serious and deeply concerned. Looking around that room, Roland must think Jin fought an entire army of alien invaders solo. Roland gazes at the sheer destruction and spider guts splattered on the walls, wondering what kind of monster battle took place here. Scene cuts to the peaceful morning sky over Third Pioneer City, a sharp contrast to the bloody dungeon brawl. Sunlight streams softly through grand windows into a quiet, luxurious bedroom inside the city mansion. Tucked under clean white sheets, Jin slowly opens his eyes, feeling the warmth of the morning sun on his face. Sitting up in bed with a heavy sigh, Jin stretches out his stiff shoulders, finally rested up and ready for whatever crazy plot twist comes next. Waking up with a body that feels like it got run over by a freight train, Jin blinks in utter disbelief, barely able to process the fact that he's still drawing breath after that apocalyptic beatdown. Before he can even process his own surviving, the door creaks open and a maid walks in with fresh towels, only to practically jump out of her skin when she sees him sitting up. Squealing in absolute shock, she sprints down the grand hallway like she just saw a ghost, screaming at the top of her lungs that the legendary mercenary has finally regained consciousness. Honestly, if I woke up to a screaming maid and footsteps thunderously charging down the hall, I'd assume I was about to be executed. Suddenly, the door slams open with a deafening bang as Roland bursts into the room, gasping in complete relief. Rushing straight to the bedside, Roland leans in with wide eyes, revealing that Jin has been completely out cold for 3 whole days. Jin internally groans in shock. Even with his insane new Dragon Tier regeneration, being out for 3 days straight proves that using that monster form leaves a nasty hangover. He quickly asks if the expedition actually wrapped up while he was asleep. Roland chuckles softly, confirming that the squad managed to wipe out most of the surrounding rift cores with surprisingly minimal casualties. Commentary. Look at Roland's soft smile here. Man looks like a proud parent whose child just aced their exams after soloing a demon invasion. With pure sincerity, Roland bows his head and offers a heartfelt thank you, giving Jin full credit for saving everyone's hides. Jin just smirks back with that classic greedy mercenary energy, telling Roland that if he's really that grateful, he better pay up with a heavy bag of coins. Creak! The cozy vibe in the room vanishes instantly as the door slides open, revealing a strict, stern-faced official standing ominously in the doorway. Stepping inside, the stoic interrogator introduces himself as an official representative from the Order Alliance, demanding Jin's full official statement regarding the dungeon brawl. Flanked by 2 towering, muscle-bound guards whose faces are ominously shaded out, the official adjusts his glasses and coldly insists on getting every single gruesome detail of how Jin fought his opponent. Commentary. You just know an interrogation is going to be annoying when the guy shows up with 2 anonymized bodyguards like he's FBI in a fantasy world? Sitting up in bed, Jin's eyes narrow as he wonders why these guys are grilling him instead of offering a medal. Pushing his specs up his nose, the official calmly explains that while they need accurate battlefield records, the sheer chaos left behind made no sense to their investigators. Leaning in with an icy, suspicious stare, the inspector admits the main reason for this interrogation. No one in the Alliance can actually believe a mere human could unleash that kind of demonic destruction against a high-tier monster. Jin mentally curses under his breath, realizing that his overpowered display has landed him right back on the suspect list instead of getting a hero's welcome. Panicking slightly beneath his cool facade, Jin frantically brainstorms what kind of ridiculous cover story he can pull out of his hat to hide his true monster origin. Saved by the Bell, or in this case, saved by the blindfolded old monk who loves dramatic entrances. Suddenly, the heavy door swings open as Elder Bo steps into the room, declaring that he will handle this situation personally. The official turns around in complete shock, stammering out the elder's name in pure disbelief as the old monk calmly enters the quarters. Trying to stand his ground, the Alliance inspector tries to argue back, asking if he made his official authority clear enough to be interrupted like this. Boom! Elder Bo's demeanor shifts instantly as a terrifying, fiery aura erupts around his body, his voice booming with absolute authority as he commands the bureaucrat to get the hell out. Pale with terror, the arrogant inspector stammers out a quick apology and hightails it out of the room alongside his guards, leaving Jin watching in complete awe. Commentary? The sheer aura flex from the elder was so clean. Man dropped the get out card and sent a high-ranking official packing without even lifting a finger. With the room finally quiet, Elder Bo takes a seat opposite Jin's bed to talk man to man. Wiping sweat from his forehead, Jin lets out a sigh of relief and thanks the old man for stepping in before things got ugly, though he's still wondering why the elder's taken such a personal interest in him. Elder Bo smiles gently, telling Jin not to worry about those nosy investigators or the suspicions surrounding his identity. Reaching inside his formal robes, the blindfolded master cryptically states that regardless of what form or power Jin harbors inside, he has chosen to place his full faith in him. Swoosh! Elder Bo pulls a mysterious glowing object from his pouch, catching Jin completely off guard as his eyes widen in total shock. Jin gasps in realization, his mind racing as he stares at the incredible item sitting in the old man's palm. Hold up, check out the visual effects on this monster core. The art is cooked with that pulsating blue fire aesthetic. Glowing with radiant azure energy, the intricate monster core floats gently in the air. Elder Bao reveals that this high-grade core was extracted directly from the corpse of the dark priest that Jin obliterated back in the ruins. Jin's jaw drops as the elder admits he secretly snagged the core from the crime scene before the Alliance search parties could loot it. Handing over the pulsing relic, Elder Bo casually gifts it to Jin, stating he had a hunch the young warrior would put it to much better use. Snip, fast forward a bit, and a team of master tailors is busy snipping threads and fitting custom-made gear specifically crafted for Jin's unique physique. Clack! Jin slides his fingers into a pair of sleek, dark leather gloves, adjusting the wrist straps with total satisfaction. Commentary, talk about a drip upgrade. Bro went from hospital bandages to full-on main character armor set in 5 minutes flat. Decked out in a fitted gray chainmail suit with reinforced pauldrons, Jin looks in awe while Elder Bo compliments his new look. Running his hands over the chest plate, Jin realizes this gear is on another level. The fabric is so lightweight and flexible it feels like a literal extension of his own skin. Jin adjusts his shoulder guards, muttering to himself that if he knew custom gear felt this good, he would have invested in a proper outfit way sooner. Elder Bo chuckles softly at Jin's excitement, warning him not to judge the outfit by its looks alone because its true value goes way beyond comfort. Flash! Before Jin can even ask what he means, the old monk suddenly winds up a fist wrapped in explosive golden aura. Whoosh! Out of nowhere, Elder Bo launches a high-speed strike straight toward Jin's chest without holding back an ounce of power. Bang! The golden aura detonates upon impact, slamming straight into Jin's chest with enough force to shatter solid stone. Did this old man really just sucker punch a guy who literally just woke up from a 3-day coma? Fantasy elders have zero chill. Jin's eyes pop out of his head in absolute shock as he recoils from the strike. But as the golden light fades, Jin blinks in confusion, realizing something completely insane about the hit he just took. Looking down at his intact chest, Jin stammers out that he barely felt a single tickle from that lethal blow, prompting Elder Bo to explain that this armor is an ancient relic. A detailed breakdown reveals the true nature of relics, ultra-rare, magic-infused gear that bestows legendary defensive properties to its wearer. Elder Bo explains that despite weighing no more than simple beast hide, this enchanted suit provides damage reduction equal to heavy dragon plate armor. Grasping his chest plate, Jin smiles in satisfaction while asking if something this legendary cost a fortune, with the elder admitting no amount of gold could easily buy it. If the relic wasn't enough, look what the assistants just dragged into the room. That chest is literally overflowing with shiny gold bars. A massive wooden chest is slammed onto the table, glittering with a whopping 2,400 gold coins. Staring at the fortune sitting right in front of his face, Jin's jaw hits the floor as he asks if giving in this insane amount of money is actually allowed. Elder Bo reassures him with a warm smile, stating that between taking down the Rift Core and annihilating the Dark Priest, Jin's extraordinary contributions earned him every single coin.
Talk about getting the ultimate VIP treatment. Just when Jin thinks he's seen it all, the cute maid reveals she tossed in a massive personal bonus on top of his official reward payout.
Imagine waking up from a 3-day nap to find yourself drowning in thousands of shiny gold coins. Jin is literally sweating bullets just looking at the absurd fortune sitting on the table. But despite the massive payout and shiny new gear, Jin looks straight at Elder Bo and the maid, demanding to know why they're showering him with legendary gifts instead of throwing him in chains. Commentary, the mood in the room drops straight to absolute sub-zero here. The dramatic blue shading on Jin's face is top-tier storytelling art. Sitting up with a dark glare, Jin drops the ultimate reality check, reminding them both that they saw him eat a monster core with their own 2 eyes. Elder Bo just chuckles warmly, touching his chin without a single trace of fear or hostility toward the terrifying power Jin holds inside. The old monk lets out a gentle sigh, jokingly complaining that even when he spoils Jin with unimaginable wealth and relic-grade armor, the young warrior still finds a way to give him grief. Meanwhile, under the pale glow of a full moon, 2 lone guards patrol the high perimeter walls of a remote outpost, completely oblivious to the nightmare crawling in the shadows. Yawn. One of the sleepy guards blinks into the pitch-black woods, swearing he saw something move, only for his buddy to laugh it off as nothing more than a trick of the night wind. Clank! Before the second guard can even finish his sarcastic remark, the atmosphere instantly freezes as an ominous silhouette looms directly above him. Out of nowhere, heavy steel chains wrapped in cold iron lash through the dark, coiling around the guard's throat before he can even pull his spear. Gah! The poor guy gets yanked backward like a helpless ragdoll as the metal links crush his windpipe in a split second. Splat! Absolute ruthless violence. This unhinged blonde assassin with the wrecking ball chain turned a routine night guard shift into a literal horror movie in under 3 seconds flat. Swinging his heavy spiked iron ball through the air, the psychotic blonde maniac cackles with pure sadistic glee as blood sprays across the night sky. The last remaining guard trembles in total horror, pointing his spear with shaking hands as he screams out, desperately demanding to know who these monsters are. Boom. He doesn't even get an answer before that iron wrecking ball shatters his helmet, wiping out the entire outpost in a single brutal blow. Stepping through the bloody carnage, the blonde killer joins his squad, a masked monk draped in giant prayer beads, and an insanely breathtaking veiled woman in a dark flowing gown. Look at the sheer arrogance in her eyes. She's standing over a pile of bodies looking like a dark fantasy runway model, while nonchalantly insulting her dead teammate. A disturbing flashback shows the pulverized, embedded remains of Enoch, the dark priest who got utterly crushed by Jin's demonic dragon form during the dungeon battle. She sneers in total disgust at the memory, calling Enoch complete trash for getting wiped out by a bunch of lowly human fighters. The blonde chain wielder just shrugs it off, admitting that whoever flattened their youngest priest clearly wasn't your average guard knight. The masked monk chimed in with total indifference, stating that Enoch losing was pretty much factored into their grand plan from the very start. Imagine grinding your entire life to become a high priest, only for your boss to treat you like a cheap pawn. Talk about terrible corporate culture in the villain faction. Pressing his palm against the ancient cliff face, the masked monk channels a surging aura of bright azure magic straight into the stone wall. Bzzzt, a massive glowing eye symbol erupts across the ancient rock, crackling with demonic runes that light up the night sky. Rumble. The heavy stone wall slides open with a deafening groan, revealing a secret passage hidden deep within the mountain. Illuminated by the radiant blue magic, the 3 villains step forward, ready to execute the next terrifying stage of their master plan. Agonizing screams! The scene shifts straight into a nightmare fuel lab. Seeing dozens of innocent test subjects strapped to torture tables gives you immediate chills. Glug? Sitting on a nearby medical tray is a sealed glass vial filled with glowing blue liquid, packed with tiny, wriggling parasitic worms swimming inside. Back at the peaceful city mansion, the calm night sky hides the horrific threat quietly gathering outside the territory borders. Looking out the grand window pane, Elder Bo takes a deep breath, preparing to lay all his cards on the table. Sitting down around a lavish tea table, the blindfolded master humbly admits he has no right to lecture Jin, but instead wants to ask him for a massive favor. Bowing his head with absolute sincerity, Elder Bo begs Jin to lend his overwhelming power for the sake of protecting humanity. Jin sits back in total disbelief, mentally recalling how he fully expected to be dragged into an underground dungeon and tortured the second anyone found out about his core devouring ability. Commentary: check out Jin's subtle smirk here. Man prepared for an execution, but instead he just got recruited as humanity's secret weapon, with a massive paycheck. Realizing he doesn't have to go on the run or fight his own allies, Jin feels a sudden wave of genuine relief and gratitude toward the old man. Wanting to cover his bases, Jin leans forward and asks if anyone else in the Order Alliance knows about his monster origin. The purple-haired assistant sips her tea, confirming it's strictly top secret between the three of them, because normal humans would panic and burn him at the stake. Satisfied that his secret is safe, Jin leans in close and asks how exactly they plan on using his unique abilities to help the city. Thud! Elder Bao reaches inside his robes and places a pulsating dark blue monster core onto the table, the exact high-grade core extracted from the Dark Priest's corpse. The Elder explains that while absorbing a standard monster core rarely yields memory fragments, eating a core from a human-turned monster changes the odds completely. He reveals that human origin cores retain deep residual memories, meaning Jin has a massive chance of unlocking the Dark Priest's past secrets. The realization hit Jin like a freight train. Everything instantly makes sense now. He finally understands why he saw those creepy memories when he ate Golden Bug's mutated sons earlier. Holding the glowing azure relic in his hand, Jin confirms if their main goal is for him to digest the core and extract critical intel on the enemy's master plan. Elder Bao and the assistant nod together in total agreement, entrusting the future of the kingdom entirely to Jin's legendary stomach. Jin internally chuckles at his incredible fortune. Not only did he gain powerful, high-ranking allies, but he gets to devour a high-grade core he thought he lost out on. Flashing a mischievous smirk, Jin surrounds his body in dark purple aura, dramatically declaring he'll force himself to eat this tasty core purely for the greater good. Crunch! Without hesitation, Jin bites straight into the pulsating core, shattering its hard outer shell as magic erupts into his mouth. Flash! Jin's consciousness gets yanked into a distant memory sequence, showing a tall, gloomy clock tower rising into rain-heavy skies. Inside a grand balcony, a desperate, pathetic noble falls to his knees before the veiled woman, screaming that he refuses to live as a useless failure and craves absolute power. Looking down at the groveling coward with cold disdain, the veiled woman steps closer, issuing a chilling challenge for him to prove his dedication to darkness. Imagine swallowing a dark magic core just to wake up with someone else's worst nightmare stuck inside your head. The veiled priestess stands over her victim, holding up a glass vial filled with glowing blue liquid and squirming parasitic worms like it's a gourmet dark magic cocktail. Gasp! Jin's eye snaps open as his consciousness gets violently yanked back into reality, cold sweat dripping down his face from that terrifying memory download. Sitting up in bed, Jin finds Elder Bo and the purple-haired maid hovering over him with deep concern, asking if he's feeling all right after eating that demonic snack. Rubbing his throbbing forehead, Jin confirms he's fine and reveals that digesting the core actually worked, giving him front-row access to the enemy's master plan. Commentary: honestly, using your stomach as a USB flash drive for dark magic intel is peak fantasy protagonist logic, but hey, you can't argue with results. With a deadly serious expression, Jin drops the ultimate bombshell. He now knows exactly what those twisted dark priests are plotting next. Cut to the grand exterior of the city mansion where the gloomy gray skies match the heavy atmosphere gathering over the entire territory. Walking down the cobblestone courtyard path, Elder Bo leans in, asking Jin if he's absolutely certain about what he saw in those memory fragments. Jin confirms it with zero hesitation, explaining that the massive dungeon battle they just survived was nothing more than a giant distraction while the Dark Priests prepped their real target. Commentary: imagine fighting for your life against a dragon-form monster only to realize you were just part of a villain's side quest. Holding a sealed invitation in his hands, Jin reveals their true objective, a sacred tradition held right after every major expedition ends. Boom! The mood drops straight to sub-zero as Jin reveals the horrifying truth. The villains are planning to crash the Archbishop's grand banquet and massacre every high-ranking official in the city. Imagine a shadowy, demonic terror looming over the entire city, ready to swallow the highest leaders of humanity in a single night of chaos. Sweating bullets, the maid questions if the enemy really has enough firepower to pull off a hit against heavy banquet security, but Jin warns her that their heavy hitters are no joke. Commentary? Look at the maid's face. She went from polite assistant to I don't get paid enough for a citywide massacre real quick. Jin recalls seeing that intimidating iron-masked monk channeling massive magic power during the memory sequence. He also warns them about the veiled woman who orchestrated the Golden Bug family's downfall, confirming both of these elites possess terrifying combat strength. Stroking his chin in thought, Elder Bao listens as the maid speaks up, suggesting they immediately alert the Order Alliance and cancel the entire banquet before it starts. She insists that fighting these monsters alone is suicide, and that calling in high command backup is their safest bet. Commentary? Logically, she's 100% right, but this is an action manhwa, so of course the safe option is immediately thrown out the window. Thud! Elder Bo shuts her down instantly, firmly declaring that reporting this to high command is completely out of the question. He points out that if they go to the Alliance, they'd have to explain how they got this intel, exposing Jin's core-eating secret and getting them all framed as Dark Priest cultists. Plus, if they cancel the event, the villains will just pivot to a secret backup plan, putting them right back at square one with zero intel. Realizing the bind they're in, Jin looks at the Elder with a sharp glare, asking what their actual play is. Commentary? Elder Bo really has that 5D chess master energy. He blindfolds himself just to flex his tactical vision. The blindfolded master smiles calmly, stating that the best move is to turn the enemy's own secret plot right back against him. With a menacing grin surrounded by surging aura, Elder Bo declares that since they know the rats are coming, all they have to do is set a lethal mousetrap. Cut to the night of the event, where the Grand Royal Castle lights up the dark sky like a beacon of wealth and power. Inside the sprawling banquet hall, crystal chandeliers illuminate the room as high society nobles and top military brass mingle in fancy gowns and suits. Commentary? Check out the background detail here. The artist went all out on the palace architecture just for it to probably get destroyed in 5 minutes. Stepping into the hall, looking absolutely sharp in a sleek brown cloak and fitted tunic, Jin makes his grand entrance into high society. Whispers immediately ripple through the crowd as snobbish aristocrats point him out, wondering if this kid is really the hero who carried the expedition. Two noble ladies giggle behind a purple lace fan, gossiping about rumors that he turns into an absolute beast on the battlefield, with one playfully asking if she should shoot her shot. Jin keeps walking, completely unbothered by the stares, until a loud, booming voice calls out to him from across the floor. Commentary? You gotta love how Jin treats high society gossip like background noise. Man is strictly here on business. Clack! Out of nowhere, Roland, the red-haired paladin, aggressively puts Jin in a friendly headlock, cheering that the star of the day finally decided to show up. Laughing heartily, Roland jokes that after everything that went down in the dungeon, he actually thought Jin kicked the bucket. Smirking at his buddy's over-the-top reaction, Jin apologizes for making him worry, explaining that things were just too chaotic to drop a message. Roland lets out a hearty laugh, agreeing that the recent battle was pure madness that nobody could have prepared for. Commentary? Roland is basically the ultimate bro in this series. Every main character needs a hype man with red hair. But then, Roland's tone shifts as he leans into Jin's ear, asking quietly if Jin noticed the unwelcome guest watching him. Glancing up toward the second-floor balcony, Roland whispers that Jin seems to have a shadowy tail keeping close tabs on him. Up on the balcony, a strict, glasses-wearing inquisitor calmly sips his wine while glaring down at Jin with intense suspicion. Jin gives a subtle glance over his shoulder, nonchalantly noting that the guy's just doing his job, directly because he's too strong for a normal mercenary. Commentary. Imagine getting investigated for tax fraud in fantasy terms just because you cleared a dungeon too fast. Roland sighs, whispering an apology on behalf of the Alliance, complaining that guys who didn't even fight on the front lines are always the most paranoid snobs. Winking with a confident grin, Roland tells Jin not to let those suits get under his skin or ruin his night. Jin offers a cool smirk, replying that as long as they protected the people, none of that political noise matters. Ding dong! A loud bell chimes above the massive entrance doors, instantly cutting off all chatter across the grand hall. Commentary. Nothing says important NPC arrival quite like a dramatic bell toll in a medieval fantasy story. Dynamic lines fill the panel as the herald announces the grand entry of the Archbishop himself. Walking down the wide marble staircase draped in high holy robes, the Archbishop enters the banquet with a calm, dignified posture. Meet Archbishop Conrad, the supreme religious authority of the realm, sporting a closed-eye smile that radiates absolute holy purity. Nobles and ladies bow gracefully in respect as Conrad greets the crowd, asking if everyone is enjoying the luxurious celebration. Commentary. Pro tip in anime and manhwa, whenever a high priest smiles with closed eyes like this, he's either a saint or secretly the final boss. Flashing a heartwarming smile, Conrad announces that this night is a gift to all who risk their lives, encouraging everyone to drink and enjoy. As the crowd cheers, Jin quietly shifts his eyes toward the back of the room, locking onto Elder Bo standing silently in the shadows. The blindfolded master gives a subtle, barely visible nod, confirming that the mousetrap is officially primed and ready. Jin's eyes narrow as he realizes the banquet reaching its peak is the exact trigger. It's time to brace for impact. Commentary? The tension here is insane. You can literally feel the storm brewing right under everyone's noses. Swoosh! Cut to the rooftops outside the castle walls where dark hooded shadows lurk under the full moon, watching the glowing palace like hungry vultures. The four dark priests, led by the veiled woman and the iron mask monk, smile sinisterly as they leap toward the castle, setting off a bloodbath that will change the fate of the kingdom forever. Just when everyone thought the grand party was about to be a smooth night of high society drinking, a frantic guard bursts into the hall, dropping to his knees right in front of the archbishop. Conrad's saintly posture completely breaks as he glares down at the knight, demanding to know what kind of disaster could possibly ruin his pristine celebration. Sweating bullets, the guard yells out the terrifying truth. A massive wave of hideous dark abominations is currently tearing through the city's north gate. Commentary. You can literally watch Conrad's soul evaporate in real time. Man went from benevolent host to financial ruin in a single panel. Bang, quang. Outside the city walls, the massive wooden barricades tremble violently as brutal, bone-shattering strikes hammer against the timber. Roar! The main gates explode inward into a million splinters as a terrifying horde of red-eyed beasts and flying gargoyles swarms into the city streets. Crash! Slicing through the outer defense lines with terrifying speed, the shadowy monster sends stone and debris flying through the air. Commentary? The art team went absolutely crazy on these monster designs. They look like they crawled straight out of a cosmic nightmare. Back inside the sprawling venue, utter panic erupts as snobbish aristocrats scream at the top of their lungs and trample each other toward the exits. Swoosh! But while everyone else is running for their lives, Jin calmly turns his head, looking totally unbothered like he's just watching a bad movie trailer. Cut to a quick flashback from earlier that afternoon, where Elder Bao, Jin, and the maid sat around a quiet table mapping out the cult's play. Commentary? Honestly, sipping fancy Earl Grey tea while plotting how to outsmart a terror cell is such a vibe. Stroking his chin, the blindfolded master pointed out that no matter how crazy these dark priests are, attacking a castle packed with elite paladins head-on is complete suicide. He calculated that the villains would inevitably stage a massive public riot across town, forcing the castle guard to split up and leave the VIPs wide open. And right on cue, back in the present, a hysterical Conrad completely takes the bait, screaming for every knight in the hall to abandon the party and head for the gate. Flashback Jin anticipated this exact political nightmare, noting that as an outsider, he had zero legal authority to stop the archbishop from making stupid calls. Commentary? Fantasy bureaucracy strikes again. You could literally have proof of an apocalypse, and guys in high robes will still demand proper paperwork. That's when the purple-haired maid calmly set down her teacup and dropped a ruthless solution. She'd take care of locking down the guard herself. Locking her eyes with a cold, terrifying gaze, she explained that before the knights could get lured away by the enemy's distraction, gwang! High up on the castle balcony, a hidden explosive seal rigged beneath the stone ledge begins to glow with violent, crackling energy. Commentary: look at the maid's logic. Why fight the corrupt politicians when you can just blow up their balcony to keep everyone focused? Her radical play was surprisingly simple. Detonate the banquet ceiling themselves before the cultists even got a chance to set foot inside. Kaboom! A blinding explosion detonates across the upper castle floor, blowing the roof apart in a massive pillar of fire and smoke. Crash! Giant chunks of stone and shattered chandeliers rain down on the grand hall, sending screaming nobles diving for cover. Seeing the castle itself under attack, the head knight draws his sword, commanding all troops to hold their positions and shield the VIPs, falling right into the maid's plan. Commentary: shout out to the commander for thinking he made a heroic split-second call, completely unaware he's acting out a maid script. Swoosh! High above on the windswept roof under the full moon, the silver-haired maid holds a veil over her face, watching her chaotic mastermind plan succeed. Down below, Jin smirks with absolute satisfaction, confirming that the castle security is completely locked down and forced to defend the perimeter. Swoosh! Meanwhile, vaulting across the city rooftops under the night sky, the four hooded dark priests race toward what they think is an unsuspecting target. Boom! Suddenly, the cultists grind to a halt on the roof tiles as a gigantic fireball ruptures from the castle upper floor. Commentary? The sheer confusion in their eyes is hilarious. Imagine hyping up a secret raid for weeks only to find out the target blew itself up first. Exchanging bewildered looks in the dark, the cultists start arguing whether one of their own rookie members botched the timer and blew the trap early. Cold sweat drops down the veiled priestess's cheek as her smug grin completely shatters, realizing with horror that they've been ambushed before they even arrived. Clank! Back inside the moonlit hall, Jin's gloved hand tightens like a vice around the leather hilt of his massive broadsword. Swoosh! Stripping off his brown traveling cloak, Jin steps into the moonlight, unsheathing his giant blade as blue magic surges wildly around his frame. Commentary. That dramatic cloak toss reveal is peak protagonist energy. The artist went all out, making Jin look like a walking calamity. With a lethal red gleam in his eye and a chilling smirk, Jin prepares to hunt down every last rat that walks straight into his trap.